Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHS Horizon and watched the stars through the main screen. He had been in space for 15 years, but the view never got old. The ship was on a routine mission to map new systems near the edge of human space. It was quiet work, but important work. Someone had to check these places before the colony ships arrived. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez sat at her station running scans of the empty space around them. She was good at her job and rarely missed anything. The young officer had joined the crew 6 months ago and quickly proved herself reliable. Maya liked the peaceful missions better than the dangerous ones near the war zones. The Horizon was not a warship. It was built for exploration and science. The crew of 42 people included engineers, scientists, and medical staff. They carried enough supplies for 8 months in deep space. Captain Morrison preferred it this way. He had seen enough fighting in his younger days. Maya frowned at her readings and checked them again. Something was wrong with the sensors, or there was something out there that should not be there. She ran the scan a third time and got the same results. Large objects were drifting in space between 2 gas giants about 6 hours away at current speed. Captain, I am picking up some strange readings, Maya said. She kept her voice calm, but Morrison could hear the concern. He walked over to her station and looked at the display. The readings showed 12 large objects moving very slowly through space. They were too big to be asteroids and too regular to be natural. Could be ships, Morrison said. He had learned to trust his instincts over the years. Can you get a better reading on their size and composition? Maya worked her controls and the image became clearer. The objects were definitely artificial. They were enormous, much larger than any human ship ever built. Commander Lisa Bennett heard the conversation from her science station. She was the ship's expert on alien life and technology. Earth had only met 3 other intelligent species, and contact had been limited. Lisa had studied every piece of alien tech that humans had ever found. She came over to look at Maya's readings. Those are not human ships, Lisa said after studying the data. The energy signatures are completely unknown. The size suggests a very advanced civilization. She paused and ran more scans. Captain, I am detecting very weak power readings from those ships. They appear to be drifting without main power. Morrison felt his stomach tighten. Disabled ships in space usually meant people were dying. It did not matter if they were human or alien. No one deserved to die alone in the cold darkness. He thought about his options. First contact protocols said to observe from a distance and report back to Earth Command. That would take months for a message to reach Earth, and months more for instructions to return. How long would it take us to reach them? Morrison asked Maya. She checked the navigation computer and did some quick calculations. 6 hours and 20 minutes at full speed, sir. Morrison nodded and walked back to his command chair. He pressed the intercom button to reach the entire ship. All senior staff to the bridge immediately, he announced. Within minutes, his key officers had gathered around him. Chief Engineer Ryan Cooper arrived first, still wiping grease from his hands. Dr. Nina Phillips came next, followed by Security Chief Alex Turner. Navigation Officer Emma Foster was the last to arrive. Morrison explained the situation quickly and showed them Maya's sensor readings. The ships were clearly alien and clearly in trouble. Ryan studied the energy patterns and whistled softly. Those power cores are almost dead, he said. Whatever happened to them, they do not have long before total system failure. Dr. Phillips looked worried. If there are living beings on those ships, they may be dying right now. Life support systems require constant power. Alex Turner was more cautious. We do not know anything about these aliens. They could be hostile. This could be a trap. Morrison understood both viewpoints. His duty as a Starfleet captain was to protect his crew, but his duty as a human being was to help others in need. He had made similar decisions before, and they had usually turned out right. Emma, set course for those ships. Maximum speed, but keep us at a safe distance when we arrive. The horizon changed direction and accelerated toward the alien fleet. Maya continued her scans and began picking up more details. The ships were beautiful in their own strange way. They had smooth curves and looked almost like they had been grown instead of built. Each ship was different, but they all shared this same basic design principles. Lisa worked on analyzing the weak signals coming from the alien vessels. Some appeared to be automatic distress calls, while others might be attempts at communication. She tried to decode the patterns, but the mathematics were unlike anything in human databases. "I am detecting what might be language patterns," she reported. "Very complex, but possibly based on quantum entanglement rather than radio waves." As they got closer, Ryan was able to get better readings on the alien power systems. What he found amazed him. The ships used some form of exotic matter for power generation. It was technology far beyond human understanding. "These people are way ahead of us in terms of energy production," he told Morrison. "I cannot even guess how their engines work." The captain made another decision that would change everything. "Maya, open all communication channels. Broadcast our peaceful intentions on every frequency we have. Include mathematical sequences and basic scientific principles. If they are listening, they will know we are intelligent and friendly." Maya began transmitting while Lisa worked on creating visual signals that any intelligent species should understand. They sent prime numbers, pictures of atomic structures, and images of the solar system. The messages went out continuously as the horizon approached the alien fleet. After 2 hours of broadcasting, something unexpected happened. Maya's communications console lit up with activity, but not from any normal radio signal. "Captain, I am receiving some kind of direct neural interface signal. It is bypassing our communications array entirely and going straight to our computer core." Alex Turner immediately moved to his security station. "Could be an attack. I recommend defensive protocols." But Lisa was studying the signal pattern and shaking her head. "No, this is not hostile. It is very sophisticated, but it feels like they are trying to talk to us." The signal resolved into something that resembled language. The computer began automatically creating translation protocols based on the mathematical principles they had broadcast. Slowly, words began to form on the main screen. The first complete message made everyone on the bridge hold their breath. "Unknown vessels, we greet you with hope and desperation. We are the Zephyrian Collective, travelers from a dead system seeking new homes among the stars. Our power cores have failed and our people are dying. If you understand this message, please help us. We have children aboard these ships who have never seen a planet. Do not let them die in the darkness between worlds." Morrison stood up from his chair and looked at his crew. Every face showed the same emotion. They had found people in need, and those people had asked for help. It did not matter that they were aliens from another world. It did not matter that helping them might be dangerous or difficult. What mattered was that someone was dying, and the horizon could do something about it. "Maya, send a response. Tell them we are humans from the planet Earth, and we want to help. Ask them about their immediate needs and how many people are on their ships." The young communications officer began composing the message while Lisa worked on improving the translation software. The response came quickly. The aliens called themselves Zephyrians, and their fleet carried over 50,000 refugees from their destroyed home system. Their exotic power cores had failed during a long journey between stars. They had perhaps days before their life support systems shut down completely. Their own engineers had tried everything but could not repair the damage without materials. That no longer existed. Morrison made the decision that would define his career and possibly change the course of human history. Emma, take us closer to their fleet. Ryan, prepare boarding shuttles and engineering teams. Lisa, start working on communication protocols for face-to-face contact. We are going to help these people. The Horizon moved toward the massive alien ships while the crew prepared for humanity's greatest rescue mission. The Horizon docked with the largest Zephyrian ship 3 hours after first contact. Captain Morrison had chosen his away team carefully. Dr. Phillips would handle any medical situations. Ryan Cooper could analyze their technology. Lisa Bennett would manage communication and cultural issues. Security Chief Turner would keep everyone safe. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Morrison stepped into the alien ship. The corridor beyond was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls seemed to pulse with a faint blue light that moved like blood through veins. The floor felt soft under his boots, almost alive. Everything was curved and organic, with no sharp edges or straight lines. A group of Zephyrians waited to greet them. Morrison had expected something humanoid based on their communications, but the reality was still surprising. The aliens were tall and thin with pale skin that seemed to glow from within. Their faces were elongated with large dark eyes that showed intelligence and sadness. They wore simple robes that changed color as they moved. The leader stepped forward and spoke in perfect English through a small device attached to his throat. I am Fleet Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective. We are grateful beyond words that you have come to help us. His voice was musical and strange, but clearly sincere. Morrison extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship. Veltar looked confused for a moment, then carefully reached out and clasped the captain's hand with his own. The alien's skin was warm and surprisingly similar to human skin, except for a slight tingling sensation. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Human Ship Horizon. We received your distress call and came as quickly as we could. What can we do to help your people? The translation device worked both ways, and Veltar seemed to understand immediately. Doctor Phillips stepped forward with her medical scanner. Commander Veltar, we need to understand your biology to make sure we can help safely. May I scan you to check for any compatibility issues? The alien leader nodded and stood still while the scanner hummed quietly. Fascinating, Phillips said as she read the results. Your basic biology is surprisingly similar to humans. Oxygen breathers with carbon-based chemistry. There are differences, but nothing that should prevent us from working together safely. Ryan. Cooper was already studying the corridor walls with his engineering scanner. The readings were incredible. The ship was not built from metal and plastic like human vessels. It was grown from some kind of living material that could repair itself and respond to the crew's needs. Commander, how do your ships generate power? He asked. Veltar led them through the corridors toward the ship's power core. Along the way, they passed hundreds of Zephyrians. Some were working to keep systems running, while others simply waited. In small groups, Morrison noticed there were many children among the refugees. Their large eyes watched the humans with curiosity rather than fear. The power core chamber was enormous and beautiful. At the center stood a crystalline structure that should have been glowing with energy, but was now dark and cold. This is our Heartstone, Veltar explained. It converts exotic matter from our home star into usable energy. When our star died, the exotic matter began to decay. We have been running on stored energy for 2 years, but now even that is almost gone. Cooper ran every scan he could think of, but the technology was completely beyond human understanding. The crystalline structure was made from materials that did not exist in any human database. The energy conversion process used principles of physics that humans had barely begun to theorize about. "How long do you have before complete power failure?" Morrison asked. Veltar's skin changed from pale blue to a darker purple color. Morrison was learning that Zephyrian skin reflected their emotions. "Perhaps 10 days," the alien commander replied. "After that, our life support will fail and our people will begin to die." Dr. Phillips was scanning the other Zephyrians they encountered and learning more about their biology. They were remarkably similar to humans in many ways, but had some unique adaptations. Their blood was blue instead of red, and they could survive in slightly lower oxygen environments. Most importantly, they seemed to be naturally peaceful people with no weapons or aggressive behaviors. Lisa Bennett was recording everything and building a database of Zephyrian culture and language. She learned that they were originally from a system much closer to the galactic core. Their sun had gone nova earlier than predicted, and they had barely escaped in time. The 50,000 refugees represented the entire surviving population of their species. "We were a proud people once," Veltar told them as they toured the ship. "We built these vessels and traveled between stars for thousands of years. We thought we were masters of the galaxy. Now we are just refugees hoping to find a new home before we all die." Morrison felt a deep sympathy for these people. Humanity had always feared that their own sun might someday die and force them to flee Earth. The Zephyrians were living that nightmare. "Commander, we want to help, but we need to understand your technology better. Would you be willing to work with our engineers?" Veltar agreed immediately. He assigned several Zephyrian engineers to work with Cooper, while Dr. Phillips began setting up medical exchanges with their healers. The two species had different approaches to medicine, but both were based on scientific principles. Over the next several hours, the human team learned more about Zephyrian society. They were a collective species that made decisions through consensus rather than individual leadership. Every Zephyrian was connected to every other through a weak telepathic link that allowed them to share emotions and basic thoughts. This made them highly cooperative, but also vulnerable when facing individual decision-making. The Zephyrians were amazed by human individuality. They could not understand how Morrison could make decisions without consulting his entire crew. The concept of personal initiative was completely foreign to them. When Cooper suggested a possible engineering solution, they were shocked that he did not need approval from every human on the ship. "Your species is very strange," Veltar told Morrison as they stood in the ship's observation deck looking out at the stars. "You think as individuals, but work together when needed. We think as a group, but cannot act without consensus. Perhaps there is something each of our peoples can learn from the other." Cooper's engineering analysis was not encouraging. The Zephyrian power system was based on exotic matter that humans could not create or obtain. Even if they could build a replacement Heartstone, it would require materials and energy sources that did not exist anywhere in human space. Traditional human power systems were too crude and primitive to run the organic Zephyrian ships. Cooper was not ready to give up. He had always been good at finding creative solutions to impossible problems. "Captain, their ships are living organisms. Maybe we don't need to replace their power system. Maybe we can supplement it or give it something it can work with." Dr. Phillips was thinking along similar lines. Her medical scans had shown that Zephyrian biology could adapt to different energy sources within limits. "Their bodies are incredibly flexible," she told Morrison. "If we could find a way to provide compatible energy, their ships might be able to adapt to use it." Lisa Bennett had been studying Zephyrian history and found some interesting information. "Captain, they haven't always used exotic matter for power. Their earliest spaceships used simpler energy sources. The technology might still exist in their databases." Morrison gathered his team for a planning session in the Horizons conference room. They had learned a lot about the Zephyrians, but time was running short. 10 days was not long to develop a completely new technology that could save 50,000 lives. What do we know for certain? Morrison asked his team. Cooper spoke first. Their ships are alive and can adapt to new conditions if given time and the right energy source. Human fusion reactors produce clean energy that might be compatible with their biology. Phillips added her medical perspective. The Zephyrians themselves are highly adaptable. They could probably survive on human life support systems if necessary. The real problem is keeping their ships alive. Lisa had been working on the cultural aspects. They want to cooperate, but their consensus-based decision-making could slow things down. We may need to work with individual Zephyrians rather than trying to get approval from their entire collective. Turner raised the security concerns. We would be sharing our most advanced technology with an unknown species. If they turn hostile later, we could be giving them weapons they could use against us. Morrison considered all the viewpoints carefully. The situation required a decision that could affect both species for generations to come. He could follow safe protocols and let the aliens die while waiting for instructions from Earth Command. Or he could take a risk and try to save them with untested technology and uncertain consequences. The captain made his choice the same way he always did, by asking himself what was right rather than what was safe. We are going to help them. Ryan, start working on fusion power adaptation. Nina, set up medical support for any Zephyrians who need it. Lisa, establish permanent communication links between our ships. Alex, prepare security protocols but assume these people are friends, unless they prove otherwise. The real work was about to begin. Ryan Cooper had never faced an engineering challenge like this one. He stood in the Horizon's engine room, surrounded by technical diagrams and computer models, while trying to figure out how to save 50,000 alien lives. The fusion reactor hummed quietly behind him, a marvel of human engineering that somehow had to be adapted for completely alien technology. 3 Zephyrian engineers worked with him round the clock. Kethmal was their leading expert on Heartstone technology. Rindar understood ship biology better than anyone. Jexwin specialized in energy conversion systems. Together, they represented thousands of years of collective knowledge, but they were as lost as Cooper when it came to solving their current crisis. The problem is not just power generation, Kethmal explained through the translation device. Our ships are living beings that have evolved to process specific types of energy. Human fusion produces the right amount of power, but the energy signature is completely different from what our ships expect. Cooper studied the biological scans of the Zephyrian ship's power distribution system. It looked more like a circulatory system than electrical wiring. The ship's organs needed a steady flow of compatible energy to survive. Too little power, and they would shut down. Too much or the wrong type, and they would be damaged beyond repair. Dr. Phillips joined the engineering team with her medical expertise. She had been studying how Zephyrian biology processed energy and found some encouraging similarities to human cellular metabolism. Both our species use similar biochemical processes at the cellular level, she told Cooper. The difference is in how that energy gets delivered to where it's needed. The breakthrough came when Rindar mentioned that their ships had once used simpler power sources during their early space exploration period. Cooper immediately asked to see the historical technical data. What he found changed everything. The ancient Zephyrian ships had used a form of bioelectric power generation that was remarkably similar to human fuel cells. We abandoned that technology when we developed Heartstones, Kethmal explained. The exotic matter was so much more efficient that we saw no reason to maintain the old systems. But the biological pathways might still exist in our ships if they have not completely atrophied. Cooper realized they might not need to completely replace the Zephyrian power system. Instead, they could reactivate the ancient bioelectric pathways and use human fusion reactors to power them. It would require extensive modifications to both technologies, but it was theoretically possible. The first test nearly ended in disaster. Cooper had rigged a small fusion cell to interface with a section of Zephyrian biocircuitry on one of their smaller ships. When they activated the system, the ship's biological tissues rejected the human technology violently. Alarms sounded throughout the vessel. As organic systems began shutting down in cascade failure, Dr. Phillips rushed to analyze what had gone wrong while Cooper and the Zephyrian engineers worked frantically to disconnect the fusion cell. "It's like an immune system response," Phillips reported. "The ship is treating our technology as a foreign invader and trying to isolate it." Jexwin suggested they might need some kind of intermediary system to make the human and Zephyrian technologies compatible. "In our early medical procedures, we used biotranslators to help different genetic lines work together," he said. "Perhaps something similar could work for energy systems." Phillips had an inspiration. "We use medical nanobots for cellular repair and system integration. They are designed to work with biological tissues and could potentially serve as translators between our technologies." It was a radical idea that had never been attempted before. Captain Morrison authorized the use of the Horizon's entire medical nanobot supply for the experiment. These microscopic machines represented months of medical security for his crew, but they might be the key to saving the Zephyrian fleet. Cooper carefully programmed the nanobots to interface between human fusion technology and Zephyrian biocircuitry. The second test was conducted on the same small ship with much more preparation. Cooper installed the fusion cell, while Phillips introduced the programmed nanobots into the ship's biological systems. The nanobots spread through the biocircuitry like beneficial bacteria, creating molecular bridges between the alien tissues and human technology. This time the integration was successful. The ship's biological systems accepted the fusion power through the nanobot interface. Energy flowed smoothly through the reactivated bioelectric pathways, and the ship's organs began functioning normally again. The first human-Zephyrian hybrid power system was operational, but one ship was not enough. They needed to convert all 12 vessels in the Zephyrian fleet, and time was running short. Each ship would require custom modifications based on its unique biological configuration. The work would be dangerous and exhausting, but it was their only hope. Maya Rodriguez coordinated communications between the human and Zephyrian engineering teams while Emma Foster calculated the most efficient work schedule. They would need to work on multiple ships simultaneously to finish before the alien power cores failed completely. Security Chief Turner organized mixed teams of humans and Zephyrians to handle the most dangerous installations. Working inside living alien ships required constant coordination between species. The Zephyrians could communicate directly with their ships through telepathic links, while humans provided the technical expertise for fusion systems. Petty Officer Danny Walsh emerged as one of the most skilled human technicians for biointegration. Work. His background in both electrical engineering and biology made him perfect for the delicate task of connecting human machinery to alien tissues. Technician Sophie Chun proved equally valuable with her expertise in nanobot programming. Zephyrians were amazed by human adaptability and individual initiative. When problems arose, human crew members would immediately begin developing solutions without waiting for orders or consensus. This was completely foreign to Zephyrian culture, but incredibly effective for the complex technical challenges they faced. Cathmo worked closely with Cooper on developing standardized conversion procedures that could be used across the entire fleet. "Your species approaches problems very differently than ours," the alien engineer observed. "We analyze every possibility before acting. You act and adjust based on results. Both methods have value." Dr. Phillips established medical monitoring stations on each Zephyrian ship to track the health of both the vessels and their crews during the conversion process. The stress of power system failure was affecting Zephyrian physiology in dangerous ways. Many were showing signs of depression and hopelessness that could lead to physical illness. The human crew's determination and optimism had an unexpected positive effect on Zephyrian morale. The aliens began to believe that survival was possible for the first time in months. Their skin colors shifted from the dark purples of despair to lighter blues and greens that indicated hope and cautious optimism. Navigation Officer Foster worked with Zephyrian pilots to plot courses toward human space where permanent repairs could be completed. The hybrid power systems would provide enough energy for basic life support and slow propulsion, but the ships would need major upgrades to operate safely long-term. The most difficult conversion was the flagship that carried Commander Veltar and most of the Zephyrian leadership. The ship was the oldest in the fleet, and its biological systems had grown increasingly complex over centuries of modifications. Cooper and his team spent 3 days mapping the vessel's biocircuitry before they could even begin the power system. Installation. Communications Officer Rodriguez established a real-time link with Earth Command to report on the situation. The response would not arrive for months, but it was important to document humanity's first major diplomatic contact with an alien species. The implications went far beyond the immediate rescue operation. Lisa Bennett worked with Zephyrian historians to understand their culture and technology in greater depth. She learned that their species had once been explorers and scientists, much like humans, but had become increasingly insular as their technological advancement accelerated. The destruction of their homeworld had forced them to reconnect with the wider galaxy. The conversion of the 11th ship was completed just as sensors detected critical power failures in the remaining unconverted vessel. Cooper and his team raced against time to install the final fusion system while the ship's life support systems began shutting down. Technician Martinez was injured when a bioconduit overloaded during the final installation, but he continued working despite burns on his hands and arms. The dedication shown by human crew members had a profound impact on the Zephyrians, who had never seen individuals risk themselves for strangers. Systems analyst Lucy Parker solved the final technical challenge by developing a new nanobot configuration that could adapt in real time to changing biological conditions. Her innovation ensured that the hybrid systems would remain stable even as the ship's biology continued to evolve. The last fusion cell came online just minutes before the ship's original power core finally died completely. All 12 Zephyrian vessels now had stable power, life support, and limited propulsion capability. 50,000 refugees had been saved from certain death through the combined efforts of 2 very different species. The first real test of the hybrid power systems came when the Zephyrian fleet attempted to move under their own power for the first time in months. Captain Morrison watched from the Horizon's bridge as the massive alien ships slowly began to accelerate away from the gas giants where they had been stranded. The bioelectric systems that Cooper and his team had installed were working, but they were far from perfect. Each ship responded differently to the human fusion technology, and constant adjustments were needed to maintain stable power flow. Ryan Cooper had teams of engineers aboard every Zephyrian vessel, monitoring the hybrid systems around the clock. Commander Veltar contacted Morrison from the flagship as their small convoy began moving toward human space. Captain, our ships are responding well to the new power systems, but we are detecting some concerning fluctuations in the biointegration networks. Our ship's immune systems are still adjusting to the human nanobots. Dr. Phillips had anticipated this problem. The nanobots were designed to integrate with human biology, not the complex organic systems of living alien ships. She had modified their programming, but there were still compatibility issues that could only be resolved through trial and error. "We need to monitor the nanobots continuously," Phillips told Morrison. "If the ships start rejecting them, we could lose power to entire sections. I recommend we slow our progress and take time for the biological systems to fully adapt." Morrison agreed, but he was also aware that time was still a critical factor. The hybrid power systems provided enough energy for life support and basic propulsion, but they were not designed for long-term operation. The Zephyrian fleet needed to reach human space where proper repairs and upgrades could be completed. 3 days into their journey, the first major crisis occurred. The nanobots in one of the smaller Zephyrian ships began malfunctioning, causing power fluctuations throughout the vessel. Engineer Martinez, still recovering from his earlier injuries, led a team aboard the ship to diagnose the problem. What they found was both fascinating and terrifying. The ship's biological systems had begun to evolve in response to the human nanobots. New neural pathways were forming that could potentially integrate human and Zephyrian technology at a cellular level. But the rapid changes were causing system instabilities that threatened the ship's survival. "It's like the ship is trying to become part human and part Zephyrian," Martinez reported to Cooper over the communication link. "The biological tissues are actually rewriting themselves to work better with our fusion technology." Cooper realized they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. Two completely different technological approaches were merging into something entirely new. But the process was dangerous and unpredictable. They needed to find a way to control the evolution or risk losing ships to biological chaos. Dr. Phillips worked with Zephyrian healers to develop stabilization treatments for the evolving ship systems. They discovered that the ships could be guided through the adaptation process using a combination of human medical techniques and Zephyrian bioengineering. It required constant monitoring, but it was possible to direct the evolution in safe directions. Technician Sophie Chun made a breakthrough when she realized that the nanobots could be programmed to learn from the ship's biological responses. Instead of forcing integration, they could adapt themselves to work more efficiently with alien tissues. Her modified nanobots spread through the fleet and significantly improved system stability. Security. Chief Turner had concerns about the long-term implications of the biotechnological merger. "We are creating something that has never existed before," he told Morrison. "These ships will be partly human technology when the process is complete. What does that mean for both our species?" Morrison understood the concerns, but remained focused on the immediate goal of keeping the Zephyrians alive. "We will deal with the long-term consequences when we have time," he said. "Right now, our job is to get these people to safety." The journey toward human space continued with daily challenges and discoveries. Each ship in the Zephyrian fleet was developing its own unique adaptations to the hybrid technology. Some ships became more efficient, while others developed entirely new capabilities that neither species had imagined. Communications Officer Rodriguez documented every aspect of the biotechnological integration for later study. The data would be invaluable for future cooperation between humans and Zephyrians. She also maintained constant contact with the scattered human settlements they were approaching. Navigator Foster plotted their course carefully to avoid any potentially hostile alien territories. The combined fleet was moving slowly and would be vulnerable to attack from species that might view them as invaders. The nearest human outpost was still weeks away at their current speed. The Zephyrians were adapting to the journey better than expected. Their natural ability to work as a collective made them excellent at coordinating the complex maintenance requirements of the hybrid systems. Human individual initiative combined with Zephyrian group cooperation proved to be remarkably effective. Kefmo had become the unofficial liaison between human and Zephyrian engineering teams. He had learned to appreciate human problem-solving methods while teaching humans about bioengineering principles. Your species and ours complement each other very well, he told Cooper. We think in different ways, but we reach the same goals. The most dangerous moment came when one of the larger Zephyrian ships suffered a cascade failure in its hybrid power system. The bioelectric pathways became overloaded and began shutting down in sequence. Without immediate intervention, the ship would lose life support within hours. Cooper assembled an emergency response team that included both humans and Zephyrians. They had to work inside the ship's power core while it was actively failing. The bioconduits were unstable and could electrocute anyone who touched them incorrectly. Safety protocols had to be abandoned in favor of speed. Petty. Officer Walsh volunteered for the most dangerous part of the repair. He had to manually reconnect severed bioconduits while the system was still energized. One mistake would kill him. Instantly, but without the repair, 8,000 Zephyrians would die when their life support failed. The repair took 6 hours of delicate work while the ship's condition continued to deteriorate. Walsh worked alongside Zephyrian bioengineers who could communicate directly with the ship's nervous system. They guided him through the maze of living conduits while he provided the technical skills needed to restore the connections. Dr. Phillips monitored Walsh's vital signs throughout the operation and administered stimulants to keep him alert despite the dangerous electromagnetic fields surrounding the power core. The nanobots in his system helped protect him from the worst effects of radiation exposure, but he was still taking significant risks. The repair was successful, and the ship's power systems stabilized just minutes before life support would have failed. Walsh was exhausted and suffering from minor radiation poisoning, but he had saved thousands of lives. The Zephyrians were amazed by his willingness to risk everything for people he had never met. Commander Veltar spoke for his entire species when he thanked the human crew. You have shown us something we had forgotten in our long isolation. Intelligence alone is not enough for survival. Courage, compassion, and the willingness to help others are equally important. These are qualities we must learn from humanity. The incident led to improved safety protocols and better integration procedures for the remaining ships. Cooper's team developed new monitoring systems that could predict potential failures before they became critical. The learning process was ongoing, but each challenge made the hybrid technology more reliable. Systems analyst Parker discovered that the evolved hybrid systems were actually more efficient than either human or Zephyrian technology alone. The biological components provided self-repair capabilities, while the fusion reactors supplied clean, abundant energy. The combination was creating entirely new possibilities for both species. As they approached the outer edge of human space, the fleet received its first communication from Earth Command. The message had taken months to travel from Earth, but it carried authorization for Morrison to provide whatever assistance the aliens needed. Humanity officially welcomed the Zephyrians as refugees and potential allies. The rescue operation was nearly complete, but it had become something much larger than anyone had anticipated. Two species had learned to work together and created technology that neither could have developed alone. The Zephyrian fleet was no longer just a group of refugees. They had become partners in humanity's exploration of the galaxy. Morrison looked out at the strange and beautiful alien ships traveling alongside the horizon and felt proud of what his crew had accomplished. They had not just saved lives. They had opened the door to a future where different species could cooperate and thrive together among the stars. The combined fleet reached the outer colonies of human space after 6 weeks of careful travel. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon and watched as Earth Command vessels approached to escort them to their final destination. The sight of human ships flying in formation with the organic Zephyrian vessels was something that would have been impossible to imagine just months before. Admiral Curran Blake commanded the escort fleet from the heavy cruiser UHS Victory. She had been following Morrison's reports throughout the rescue mission and was eager to meet the aliens who had become humanity's first true allies among the stars. Her ships took positions around the Zephyrian fleet in a protective formation that demonstrated human commitment to their new friends. Commander Veltar contacted both Morrison and Blake as they approached the designated meeting point near the Sim colony world of New Geneva. Captains, my people are grateful beyond words for the sanctuary you have offered us. We understand that this arrangement requires trust from both our species, and we do not take that responsibility lightly. The Zephyrian fleet had changed dramatically during their journey to human space. The hybrid biotechnological systems had continued evolving, and each ship now represented a unique fusion of human and alien capabilities. Dr. Phillips had documented the entire process, and her research would revolutionize both human medicine and engineering. Ryan Cooper had become the leading expert on biotechnological integration through his work with the Zephyrian ships. His innovations were already being studied by Earth's top engineers and would likely lead to the next generation of human spacecraft. The organic systems could self-repair and adapt to new conditions in ways that traditional human technology could not match. The formal first contact ceremonies took place aboard Admiral Blake's flagship with representatives from both species present. Morrison was proud to see his crew members serving as translators and technical advisors. Maya Rodriguez had become fluent in Zephyrian quantum entanglement communication, while Lisa Bennett was recognized as Earth's leading expert on Zephyrian culture. And negotiations for Zephyrian settlement rights proceeded smoothly. The aliens asked for very little, just a place where they could rebuild their civilization and contribute to the galactic community. Earth Command offered them several uninhabited systems within human space where they could establish new colonies. Using their advanced bioengineering techniques, Dr. Phillips worked with Zephyrian healers to establish the first interspecies medical protocols in galactic history. Human and Zephyrian biology were compatible enough that they could share medical knowledge and even provide treatment for each other when necessary. The breakthrough would save countless lives in future emergencies. Security Chief Turner developed new procedures for mixed human-Zephyrian crews that balanced human individual initiative with Zephyrian collective decision-making. The combination proved remarkably effective for complex operations that required both creative problem-solving and careful coordination. The Zephyrians chose to establish their primary colony in the Kepler 438 system, a region with 3 potentially habitable worlds and abundant resources for bioengineering. Human engineers worked alongside Zephyrian growers to design the first truly integrated settlements that combined the best features of both technological approaches. Engineer Martinez, fully recovered from his injuries, led the team that designed the colony's power systems. The hybrid technology developed during the rescue mission provided clean, efficient energy that could adapt to changing needs. The successful integration convinced both species that cooperation was more effective than competition. Technician Chan established the first interspecies technical academy where humans and Zephyrians could learn each other's methods. Her curriculum became the standard for all future cooperation between the species. Students learned that different approaches to the same problems often produced better results than either species could achieve alone. Navigation Officer Foster worked with Zephyrian pilots to map safe travel routes between human and Zephyrian space. The combined fleets could now patrol a much larger region of the galaxy and provide assistance to other species that might be in distress. The rescue service they established saved hundreds of thousands of lives over the following years. Communications Officer Rodriguez developed the quantum entanglement communication network that allowed instant contact between human and Zephyrian colonies across hundreds of light years. The technology revolution changed how both species explored and settled new worlds. Systems. Analyst Parker's work on adaptive nanobots led to the development of universal biotechnological interfaces that could work with any organic or mechanical system. Her innovations made it possible for humans and Zephyrians to work together on increasingly complex projects throughout the galaxy. The hybrid ships of the original Zephyrian fleet became the backbone of the new Galactic Rescue Service. Each vessel was uniquely adapted for specific types of emergency response. Some specialized in medical evacuations, while others focused on engineering support or disaster relief. The organic ships could literally grow new equipment as needed. Captain Morrison was promoted to admiral and given command of the rescue service. His first official act was to commission the construction of new hybrid vessels that incorporated the best of both human and Zephyrian technology. The ships would be crewed by mixed species teams, trained in both individual initiative and collective cooperation. Commander Veltar became the first non-human to hold a command position in what was now called the United Species Fleet. His flagship, one of the original rescued vessels, served as the mobile headquarters for rescue operations throughout known space. The ship had evolved far beyond its original design and was now capable of feats that amazed engineers from both species. The success of human-Zephyrian cooperation attracted attention from other alien species. The Galactic Rescue Service became a neutral organization that could provide assistance without political complications. Their reputation for competence and compassion opened diplomatic channels that had been closed for centuries. Dr. Phillips established the Interspecies Medical Institute on the Zephyrian colony world. Human and alien medical students worked together to develop treatments for diseases that had plagued multiple species for millennia. The combination of human analytical methods and Zephyrian biointegration techniques produced remarkable breakthroughs. Horizon, Morrison's original ship, was converted into a mobile laboratory and training vessel. It carried mixed crews of humans and Zephyrians throughout the galaxy, spreading the techniques of cooperation and mutual aid that had made the original rescue possible. The ship became a symbol of what could be accomplished when different species worked together. 5 years after the original rescue, the Galactic Rescue Service had grown into the largest interspecies organization in known space. They had saved millions of lives and prevented countless wars through their neutral intervention in crisis situations. The organization's motto, chosen by Morrison himself, was simple: no one is left behind. The biotechnological revolution, started by the Zephyrian rescue, changed both species in fundamental ways. Human ships became living organisms that could adapt and grow, while the Zephyrian vessels gained the individual initiative and creative problem-solving that characterized human engineering. The hybrid technology was superior to either species' original capabilities. Commander Veltar often reflected on the day when Captain Morrison first appeared to help his stranded fleet. "You did not just save our bodies," he told Morrison during one of their regular meetings. "You taught us that survival depends not just on technology or intelligence, but on the willingness to help others, even when it involves risk. That lesson has made both our species stronger." The Zephyrian refugees had found more than just a new home in human space. They had discovered a philosophy of mutual aid and cooperation that transformed their entire approach to galactic citizenship. Young Zephyrians now trained alongside human cadets in rescue service academies throughout known space. The rescue mission that began with Captain Morrison's simple decision to help strangers in distress had grown into a galactic movement. Species that had been isolated for centuries began reaching out to each other, inspired by the example of human-Zephyrian cooperation. The galaxy became a more connected and compassionate place. Morrison's final log entry as captain of the Horizon summarized what they had all learned during the rescue mission. "We discovered that the universe is not as hostile as we feared. There are other species out there who share our values of compassion and mutual aid. By working together, we can overcome any challenge and build a future where no one has to face the darkness alone. The story of the stranded alien fleet and the humans who came to help became legend throughout the galaxy. It proved that different species could not only coexist, but thrive together when they chose cooperation over competition. The rescue mission had become the foundation for a new era of galactic civilization based on mutual respect and shared purpose.